Welcome back to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to actually have somebody hosting that's losing their voice. But also to suggest that Starfield may not be everything Bethesda made it out to be.
Yeah, Bruce is really laying it on the line for games journalism right today, so we have an Inside Games Inside Gamer later, but it should be Bruce. Anyway, audience, you might want to take a seat for this one. We don't want anyone cracking their heads on the side of tables. Todd Howard may have embellished the truth a little bit when it comes to Starfield.
No, come on. At least that's if you believe a stack of early Starfield clips that leaked onto the internet over the weekend.
Now, the sketchy off-screen cell phone recordings are many people's first real look at the game in an unedited format, and it's causing a lot of spirited debates about what exactly is or really isn't in the full game.
Okay, so just an FYI, we won't be showing any of the leaked footage in this episode, but luckily a lot of the supposed issues are so apparent that there's not a whole lot of room to misinterpret what's going on.
Yeah, the biggest one isn't subtle at all, really. So to hear about that, we got to throw to the least subtle staff member we got. Charlotte, what's got everyone on the internet worked up this time?
Apparently, if you walk, sorry, I was trying to live up to my name and title. Apparently, if you walk too far away from where you land in Starfield, you hit an invisible wall with a very unceremonious pop-up box telling players, boundary reached. It goes on to tell the player to open the map to explore another region or return to your ship. So yeah, it sounds like there could be invisible walls that prevent you from fully exploring a planet, which would mean that Starfield might be less expansive than originally advertised.
So can we fully explore planets or not? That's a pretty big deal in a space adventure game with the massive scope that was promised by Bethesda.
That exact question was posed to Bethesda's Pete Hines last week when ex-user Jeff Threat asked if they'd be able to explore an entire planet once they landed.
Oh no. Hines responded, "Yep, if you want, walk on, brave explorer."
So was Pete lying? Or, I don't know, maybe these so-called invisible walls could be removed in a day one patch.
I mean, it also doesn't sound like the experienced Starfield director Todd Howard described, where you can, quote, be who you want and go where you want.
So, yeah, you could go where you want, just not over there. Or, fly from ground to space. Or underwater, as it turns out, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Gaming journalists who are currently playing Starfield claimed that the controversy was overblown. Forbes contributor Paul Tassi tweeted that nobody knows what they're talking about when addressing the controversy. And Windows Central Jez Corden tweeted, "This is actually not entirely accurate," in response to the invisible wall conversation. He added, "Can't say more than that, really, wait for the review embargo to lift." But the controversy highlights a worry that a lot of players have, that Bethesda overpromised features in Starfield and may have underdelivered.
Yeah, this could be the first of many, it can't actually do that moments.
Other leakers claim that the game's landing zones aren't connected.
So a 4chan leaker wrote, quote, "They aren't continuous," meaning adjacent cells don't share continuity with each other. Like, walk east all the way to the border, teleport to eastern adjacent cell, look west and walk to border. It's not the cell you were just on. Dumb but true.
Other leakers have supposedly verified this by landing next to a major city, but being unable to see that city in the distance at all.
Yeah, there's other rumors too floating around on 4chan. Yes, we know 4chan. About Starfield's loot systems, specifically that NPCs won't be fully lootable. According to leakers, NPCs aren't holding their own gear and you won't be able to pick up an enemy's equipment. Instead, Starfield has a drop loot system similar to Fallout 76.
However, this was also apparently contradicted by Pete Hines during a Gamescom Q&A where he said that NPCs would be fully lootable. At least we're trusting the dude on Reddit that said Hines said that. Can't find a transcript or backup of the live stream to verify what Pete Hines said.
Yeah, just an impressively broken Gamescom website. There's also apparently load screens everywhere in the game. There's one when you enter buildings, there's one when you enter your ship, there's one when you take off from the surface of a planet, there's one when you land on a planet, and there's one when you leave your ship.
Added up, and the simple act of traveling from one planet to another involves 5 separate loading screens, which doesn't sound like the seamless space adventure lots of people are expecting.
Yeah, there's also a rumor that there's no swimming underwater, you just float on the surface. It may not be a deal breaker on a space game, but all of it sounds pretty immersion breaking. Not surface breaking though, come on.
Yeah, maybe the surface tension of water is just like 100 times higher in Starfield. Who knows? Well, that seems to be what it comes down to, what the hubbub's all about. Does any of that actually matter? Who cares about going underwater, really? Plenty of folks point out that there's not a lot of value in walking in a straight line across a barren planet for 10 minutes, much less the hours it would take to actually circumnavigate a fictitious globe.
I mean, it would be way cooler if you could fly in atmosphere or drive vehicles. This is something I've said for as long as Starfield has existed, but that is another topic.
Yeah, it's hard to say because similar logic could be applied to going underwater. Like, yes, it's cool the first time, but what's the point of exploring vast but empty oceans? We've barely done it to our own.
Still plenty of mysteries to explore. If only Todd would let us fully explore Starfield. We need immersion, Todd. He's holding it from us. That's the real answer. It's not that you would do those things, but it's pretty cool to realize that you could, or that the game could enable it if you wanted to.
Yep, Lawrence, I agree. Then, of course, you have the real OGs who are welcoming all the feature shortfalls and robotic NPC movements as heralds that Starfield will still have that special brand of Bethesda magic that really no other company can capture.
Speaking of the special brand of Bethesda, it seems like they're being weird when it comes to review codes for the game. The studio has made review codes available to some outlets, but they apparently didn't give a code to Eurogamer, aside from one specifically intended for the tech folks at Digital Foundry, where Bethesda made it clear that the code wasn't to be shared with other parts of Eurogamer.
Yeah, that's a little weird. They had to publish an article basically saying we can't do our review because they didn't give us a code. Who knows why? It could just be a personal spat between Bethesda and Eurogamer. One executive that gets to make the call got his fifis hurt. Or could be a sign that they're trying to influence coverage and avoid negative reviews. Eurogamer tends to be a little more exacting in their reviews.
Well, apparently though, Bethesda backed down and later gave Eurogamer code after the outlet publicized the issue. Very interesting.
But Eurogamer wasn't the only one. Dexerto also didn't get a code for Starfield, and while nobody is entitled to a free code, when studios start withholding them from media outlets, that can be a sign of bad things, especially just specific ones. Like with Doom, it was like, oh, we're just not giving any codes out. We feel confident in the product. But to give some out and some not, that smacks of strangeness.
Preferential treatment implies strategy. Now, you might recall not that long ago, CD Projekt only made PC codes available to reviewers when it was time to review Cyberpunk 2077. In retrospect, we know why. The console versions were garbage, and they were trying to keep that hush-hush.
It's doubtful that Bethesda's worried about Starfield's performance. Otherwise, why give the code to Digital Foundry, right? Because they're the ones that measure performance. But maybe they're worried about the gameplay being knocked by Eurogamer.
Yeah, maybe it's not really delivering what they said it was, which would certainly agree with some of the early concerns folks are having with these leaked clips.
Hey, there are some bright spots about Starfield, though. I mean, we've been reporting negatively on Starfield for weeks. Everyone else is not. So, Charlotte, what are the bright spots?
Yeah, so let's talk about bugs. Bethesda historically has a not great reputation when it comes to buggy releases, or maybe they have a great reputation of doing it. And the question is, will Starfield be any different? Well, Insider Gaming quotes sources who said it's actually Bethesda's least buggy game to date. They quoted journalist Tyler McVicker, who said that he hadn't encountered a single bug after 15 hours of playing.
Okay, no bugs over 15 hours is impressive. I was gonna say, what's the value in being the least buggy Bethesda game? That's like hopping over a 6-inch high jump, man. They also cited additional sources who said they played the game and also encountered a very limited number of bugs.
Okay, all right. And the clips haven't really only shown what you can't do. One leaked clip shows that you can mantle ledges in Starfield, which is honestly very hard to do, believe it or not. And yes, people are celebrating that a decade-old feature in most other games has finally landed in a Bethesda game. Truly, mantling is not an easy thing to do in development.
I mantled once and I was so impressed with myself. I'm actually, when I think about it, it makes me glow a little bit. I don't think I could anymore, though. I used my one. Perhaps the brightest spot of all, despite all the leaks and the arguments online, pre-orders for Starfield look very strong. It recently took the top spot in Steam's sales charts, beating out Baldur's Gate 3. It's not bad for a game that's not even out yet, and also available via Game Pass. You have a lot of people who are just buying it outright.
Lawrence, hold on a second. If you're thinking about getting Game Pass, check out Starfield on the cheap. Microsoft sort of did you a little dirty here. A company quietly has removed its $1 14-day trial for new subscribers for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass. Is that because Starfield is just around the corner?
No.
Nah, they would never do that. Come on.
All right, folks. We've been, well, diplomatic is the word I would use. I think people on the internet would describe it differently, but we've been diplomatic till now. But now it's time for the hot takes. Does it matter? Do you really want to walk around an entire planet? Is that even a feature that's going to clock when you're 30, 40 hours into the game?
I don't want that at all. I've always been a proponent of smaller games with more intentional design. That's why I like immersive sims so much. And so every time that they were like, oh, it's going to take you 3 years to finish and there's 1,000 planets, it kind of, it was not upsetting, but it's definitely like, this is not a marketing strategy that works for me as a person who plays games. So in a material sense, no, I'm not worried about that being missing. What I am more concerned about is the blatant misdirection, if that is the case, because all of the marketing has been very purposefully done to give you the impression of complete exploration. And I mean, like, if you take a step back and look, like 1,000 planets, one studio, no matter how big, like, it's not going to be like you could walk across a planet in every single one, but like they kind of got a little No Man's Sky with it, if that is the case, where they talk about boundless exploration and seamless roleplay, and it's like, maybe you should just be upfront about your product, which, like, it's going to sell crazy numbers anyway, so, like, I'm not really understanding how they would have, like, I don't understand why they would need to be less than truthful about it. Maybe they just got in too deep. I don't know.
I agree, though, Charlotte. I think the marketing is probably the thing that's gotten on my nerves the most, because it pitches Starfield as this, like, elevated spiritual experience. And Bethesda games are not that. And Starfield is, to me at least, obviously not that. It's a very, like, surface level delights game that intends to mimic the exploration experience. But I mean, the second you couldn't fly from the planet's surface to space, I was like, well, okay, then it's not that game anymore. And I guess it wasn't trying to be. The thing that bugs me, and I don't often like the idea of expectations, you know? I am very much about appreciate what's there and the people that made it for you to entertain you. But I have to admit, I am a little disappointed that Bethesda couldn't come up with a more profound technical solution, because this game's been in development since late 2015, and it really doesn't do anything that Skyrim didn't do. I mean, you have space combat, that's cool, but like the fact that it rolls a tile for you that's just a caged environment, it just generates a proc-gen Skyrim for you every time you land, and then it just like puts cave and enemy base around for you to go explore. That's cool and all, but man, 8 years. I was kind of hoping there would be a technical leap, even if it didn't necessarily impact the gameplay. I wanted something cool to come out of Bethesda, something that hadn't been done before, and it doesn't seem to have any of that. But then again, I think I'm holding it to a standard that it didn't ask to be held to, and no one asked to hold it to that. They just want a fun game where you fly around in space, shoot things, and level up. So that's kind of where I land on it. I hope there's tons of virtue to it that I haven't seen yet, because there isn't a whole lot that I have seen.
At the risk of saving my voice, Fallout in space. I've been saying it for a very long time. It's Fallout in space. So don't expect more. Don't expect less. It's going to be that. And that could be fun. If you like Fallout, it'll be fun. Because I like Fallout. Hey, just one patron to shout out today, Dane Ottman. This patron has never touched an ounce of copium in their life. You stay strong, Dane.
Don't need it. And hey, before we go, we'd like to shout out this week's Inside Games Inside Gamer. This is also connected to all these Starfield leaks. This is a pretty crazy story. 29-year-old Darren Harris posted the first leaked footage of Starfield on August 22nd, went viral, then later got busted for selling 67 copies of the game himself on the Japanese e-commerce site Mercari. Pretty cool stuff. The Shelby County, Tennessee Sheriff's Office processed Harris for a stolen property felony in addition to a misdemeanor charge for possession of marijuana.
Oh, come on. Let him toke up. Let the guy smoke. Come on.
Yeah, it's Starfield. Give me a break. So yeah, we gotta say the right thing. We don't condone leaks. even though they are pretty exciting to see. We here at Inside Games respect the hustle. And also, yeah, who's going to be out here playing Starfield sober? So, Darren Harris, you got the right idea. You're Inside Games Inside Gamer.